times. Just 2 months ago, we had taken up the topic of the eternal versus ephemeral, and we drew from this very Vidura Neeti. Considering there may be a handful of newcomers here who did not attend previous sessions on Vidura Neeti, let me quickly say Vidura Neeti is a small part of Mahabharata, which has 100,000 shlokas. Vidura Neeti, out of that 100,000 of Mahabharata, has 592 shlokas. So 100,000 come down to 1,000, come down to a little more than half of it. Where is this Vidura Neeti found? In which particular corner of Mahabharata? Mahabharata is divided into 18 parvas, starting with Adi Parva, going over to Sabha Parva, Aranyaka Parva, Virata Parva. The fifth canto, the Panchama Parva, is Udyoga Parva. It is in this fifth Parva, Udyoga Parva, that we find this Vidura Neeti. The Parvas continue: Bhishma, Drona, Karna, Shalya, Sautika, Stri Parva, Shanti Parva, Anushasana Parva, Ashwamedika Parva, Ashramavasa Parva, Mausala Parva, Mahaprasthanika Parva, and the 18th Parva of Mahabharata is Swargarohana. At the end, the Pandavas, along with Draupadi, go to heaven. In the fifth of the 18 Parvas, namely Udyoga Parva, we have Dhritarashtra very worried that now the war will take place and his sons might die. He only had the power to stop the war, but he was indecisive. He seeks counsel from Vidura. Therefore, in the Udyoga Parva, the chapters 33 to 40, 8 chapters, constitute Vidura's advice to Dhritarashtra. Though Dhritarashtra finally doesn't listen to Vidura's advice, the whole thing becomes like a hogwash, as the colloquial language goes. Dhritarashtra remains as deluded as ever before. However, you and I have so much of precious guidance in this Vidura Neeti. So in the original 33 to 40, but if we look at Vidura Neeti as a separate book, let's call those 8 chapters 1 to 8. And now coming to this webinar, what we are going to see are a few shlokas from the 4th chapter among the 8. For the original numbers, if you want, it's 33, 34, 35, 36. The 36th chapter in Udyoga Parva. This very Udyoga Parva is also called Rajagara Parva. Jagara means staying awake. And the reference is to Dhritarashtra, poor king, because of his wrong choices, cannot sleep at night. He is so restless, thinking about what could happen to Duryodhana, Dushasana, and others, his very, very dear children. He has no sleep. He just could not gather the inner moral strength to put his foot down and say, I again divide the kingdom into 2 parts, one for Pandavas and second for my own children, Kauravas. don't you fight anymore, etc. He could not say that. So, in the fourth chapter, one last time, in the 36th chapter of the original, we have an interesting piece of instruction by a Hamsa. Therefore, we have titled this webinar, A Divine Swan Instructs Gods. Gods, we don't mean Shiva, Vishnu, and so on. The residents of heaven, devas or devatās, the thousands and thousands of devatās in the heaven, ruled by Indra, and they are relatively sattvic and pious. They request this divine swan for instruction. And that is the portion we will now take a look at. As we have said in the little synopsis also, it is a dharma shastra. This portion or this entire Vidura Neeti is not about liberation, not about ending of birth and death, but as we live this life of being born, getting older, handling responsibilities, giving, taking, selling, buying, and so on and so forth, we know how life brings in so many conflicts. The Vidura Neeti is about how we may, in a healthy manner, reduce conflicts. Not in some unhealthy manner, taking some drugs or going for some escape, getting into some indulgence, like the ostrich, which is said to bury its head in the sand and imagine there is no danger whatsoever. You and I also, in our spiritual ignorance, tend to do something where we believe we are okay. But very soon, life teaches us harder lessons than ever before. So, by healthy way, I mean ways that actually bring inner change in us, that actually give to us inner strength. So we take just a few selected shlokas from this fourth chapter of Vidura Neeti. Let me see if I can show you some simple slides at this juncture. All right. I hope everyone is able to see these slides. If you are not, one of you may turn the mic on and say it's not.
Yes, we can see so.
Wonderful. Yeah. One confirmation here. So, revisiting Vidura Neeti, a divine swan instructs gods. This is our 225th webinar. We have already said how chapters 33 through 40 are what constitute Vidura Neeti. The old blind king, emperor Dhritarashtra, is listening to Vidura, a very wise person in his court. In fact, their father was the same. Vedavyasa is the father of Pandu, Dhritarashtra, and Vidura. Their mothers are different. That is part of the story of Mahabharata. Now, Hamsa, swan. Though the word used is Hamsa, it could have two meanings. Probably both meanings are valid. One is literally Lord Dattātreya took the form of a swan and was flying around. And gods a particular category called sadhya gods, sadhyaha deva. Gods again have so many different kinds, depending on the kind of punya that they had gained before, depending on the merit that they had acquired, they are of different kinds. Just as among humanity, even well placed people again belong to different professions, different social status, and so on, based on their academic qualification, their work experience, and many other factors. All of them could be, let's say, in terms of income, top 5% in this world. But even among the top 5%, there are industrialists, there are successful athletes, there are people from the movie world, and other fortunate people who, in a sense, are so fortunate to be so wealthy, so um, respected, or whatever. Among devatas also, all of them are citizens of heaven. There are certain kinds called sadhyas. The sadhyas, interestingly, were on one hand worshipped by Dattatreya. Dattatreya, Datta and Atreya. He is the son of Atri and Anasuya. So Atrehe putraha Atreya. Then he is Dattatreya. He is given to them by the three gods, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. Therefore, the divine powers of the Trimurti are in Dattatreya. However, just as Rama, Mahavishnu, worships Shiva in his avatara, just as Krishna would bow down before his teachers like Sandipani, and other avatars also of Mahavishnu would show great reverence to teachers, to god forms, and so on. Dattatreya, who is a supreme god, who is three in one, also was worshipping sadhyas, maybe to set an example to humanity. On one hand, he was worshipping sadhyas, but on the other, the sadhyas knew that this student of ours or this upasak of ours is way higher than us. We need to learn from him. And thus it is said, as I have brought one shloka here, fourth chapter, second shloka. Charantam hansarupena maharshim sanshita vratam sadhyaha devaha mahaprajnam paryaprichanta vai pura. In those ancient times, the devas called sadhyas asked of this Atreya, the Dattatreya, who was at that time moving around Hamsa Rupena in the form of a swan. So literally it could be a swan. So we have put a picture of a swan here in the slide. But you also know that in the spiritual tradition of India, anyone who is spiritually awakened is called a Hamsa and sometimes even a Paramahansa. Hansaha, if you write, and take the two syllables and reverse them, Saha aham, it becomes Soham. Soham hamsaha, hamsa soham is the mantra. So, someone who has the wisdom, I am that divine spiritual truth. This personality which wins one day, loses on another day, is fit one day and is suffering from ill health another day, and so on and so forth, is like a shadow of mine. I am that. Saha aham saha makes the word hamsa, hamsaha. And also there is a belief, even if it is more a linguistic expression or a certain belief in the domain of beliefs only, there may not be truth to it. It's a more a literary practice to say a Hamsa, a swan, is able to separate milk from water. If you give milk and water mixed and place before the Hamsa can separate milk, drink it, and leave the water behind. And that is symbolic of Viveka. An illumined person instantly sees what is true and what is false, and accepts the true and rejects the false. So, in this shloka, Charantam Hamsarupena is said. It could also be he was moving about like an Avadhuta, like a Hansa, like a Paramahansa. So, the Paramahansa is a title. Sri Ramakrishna was called Paramahansa. He did not physically take the form of a swan, and yet he was called Paramahansa. So Hansa Rupena Maharshim Charantam Sadhyaha Paryapricchanta. Therefore, more than mere scholarship, more than intellectual acquisition of conceptual spirituality, you and I need to have in our daily life the actual ability to differentiate the true from the false, and without batting an eyelid, go for the true, say goodbye to the false. And we know how hard it is because of our conditionings, because of our bad habits, because of our vasanas. So, one of the insights we will be studying soon is what the Dattātreya advises the devas on this matter, how to be free from bad habits or our purva vasanas. So, when they request him, one of the expressions they use is very sweet. In the very third shloka of this chapter, where some 18 shlokas constitute the words of the Hamsa, this Dattātreya. Later on, the second part of this chapter has Dhritarashtra intervening and preventing Vidura from talking more about Hamsa and Hamsa's advice, and he asks other questions. So the swan, as though goes out of the stage, goes away. So we are seeing in this webinar just the words that are given by the swan, Hamsa, which is Dattātreya. So the devatās say, the whole shloka, let me read for you, of which a part is in the slide. Sadhya deva vayamete maharshe drishtva bhavantam na shaknumo anumatum. Drishtva bhavantam. Upon seeing you, who is worshipping us also, but actually we are at a loss to know the depth of your being. Anumatum. Anumana is to infer. Oh, he is on a scale of 10, he is on level 6, or he is on level 4. To infer, to conclude, some to judge, to assess. We are unable to assess your greatness. Shrutena dhiro buddhimansvam matonaha. We know that you are extremely learned. Shrutaha means study, literally listening, but that stands for study. You are extremely buddhiman, intelligent. And then the part that is sweet, kavyam vacham vaktum arhasi udaram. You ought to say to us something which is kavya. Kavi. Kavi is a grantadarshi. A kavi, elsewhere it could be a poet in any language, but in spiritual texts, kavi means someone who can see way beyond what others can. And something coming from a kavi is kavya. Kavyam vacham vaktumarhasi udaram. Something lofty, something of great merit. Therefore, kindly say a few learned words to us. Responding to them, the divine swan or Lord Dattātreya instructs them. We have shown a chin mudra here. Normally, the index finger, which represents our ego, is with the three upadhis of ours: body, mind, and intellect. And when we grow spiritually, the ego, represented by the index finger, withdraws itself from the three upadhis or limiting agents and joins the thumb. The index finger joins the thumb in the illustration. The ego joins the pure self and merges in the pure self. That is Atma Sakshatkara. Towards that lofty goal of Atma Sakshatkara, Dattatreya tells a few tips, gives them a few tips. The first one is, as found again in the very next verse, Dattatreya says, O gods, O devatās, O citizens of Indra's heaven, I can only share with you what I have heard, I have studied in the holy books. Etat karyam amaraha samshrutam me. Shrutam means listened to or studied. Samshrutam. After studying a whole lot of scriptures and double checking them against my own life, I have seen this. Etat samshrutam amaraha. Amara means gods. And then comes the portion which you read on the screen. Dhriti shamaha satya dharmanuvrittihi. We tend to imagine we can take some shortcut to lasting happiness. We think we are smart, especially when we are young, when our blood is hot, when our energies are high. We imagine, let others do all those spiritual practices. Let them do those sadhanas. I don't need any sadhana. I understood this Vedanta. And in fact, I'm already free. It seems I'm already mukta. In this way, one takes liberty only to suffer in life. Dattatreya makes it very clear. Without mincing words, Dattatreya says, if you really want to rise spiritually, enjoy lasting happiness, find or discover great inner strength, dhritihi, make yourself steady. Dhriti is dharana. We tend to be unsteady. We put the alarm for 5 a.m. and at 5 a.m. when it rings, we change our mind. I think I'll start it from next month, August. July, I let me sleep as much as I want. Gone. Your decision is gone. You decide not to smoke, then you smoke. You decide not to talk too much, but you uncontrollably go on talking. In 100 things, do's and don'ts, we don't stay with what we ourselves have decided. Dhriti is, even if temptations or provocations come our way, staying firm. So, a lot of moral advice. Shamaha. This requires control over senses and the mind. Satya dharma anuvritti. You may be a scholar. You might have written books. You might have traveled and given lectures to large audiences in esteemed halls. Nothing matters. Actually, in your private life, in the 24 by 7 life. Incidentally, today is 24 by 7. There was a joke in the WhatsApp addressing husbands. Husbands of the world, if you have ever promised your wives that you will love her or love them 24 by 7, today is the day, 24th July. So there was a pun on 24 by 7, which otherwise means 24 hours and 7 days and all time. But the joke says, show some love, express some loving sentiments on today, 424 by 7. Anyway, topic here is not just in your public appearances on the stage, etc., but 24 hours by 7 days a week, try to walk the path of Satya. Grantham viniya hridayasya. You need to bring all your energies in the heart in line. Vinaya is taking. Naya means leading, taking. Take your energies in the right direction and sarvam. Look at everything. Look at everyone. Atma samam. Look at all of them as equal to you. Priya apriye atma samam nayita. So, pleasant or unpleasant at first instance, or first something may appear pleasant, something may appear unpleasant. But with your inner training, train yourself to look at both pleasant and unpleasant equally and let them dissolve in your pure consciousness. In the fire of intelligence, let those labels of dear and inimical, etc., get burnt. So there is a lot of such moral advice here, and I have titled this slide Our Foremost Duty, because Dattatreya, above all, mentions this kind of attentive, alert, vigilant living as most important. And going further, I have jumped a little, going to the seventh verse in this section. There is a great advice given to us to be especially careful with regard to speech. Do not be harsh. Do not be bitter. Do not use words which will hurt others. As great teachers, spiritual instructors tell us, serve all. Do not trouble anybody. So we have the whole expression, whole shloka going like this. Marmani astini hridayam tathasun ruksha nirdahanti pumsam tasmad vacham ushatim ruksharupam dharma ramo nityasho varjayita. The word ruksha means burning. Ruksha means that which really burns or causes injury, causes suffering. Rukshaha vachaha. Visarga drops because of sandhi. Rukshaha vachaha pumsam marmani nirdahanti hridayam nirdahanti asun nirdahanti. The whole shloka has those words. Marmanyastini hridayam tata asun ruksha vacho nirdahanti pumsam tasma. Therefore, vacham ushatim ruksharupam dharma ramo. Any one of us who would want to anchor oneself in dharma, varjayita, should avoid. If you can say something in a pleasing manner, you find somebody doing something wrong, you can go and speak in a rather rude manner. What is this idiotic thing you are doing? This is so horrible. You are so mean. Some bad words we can use. Or we can look at him. He becomes aware that you are watching him. Then you say, you know what? Uh, do it this way. Just tell him the right way. Don't highlight that he is doing the wrong thing. Tell him the right way. Somebody is eating some wrong food. It is said all your problems or most of your problems go away if you leave three things: leave wrong food, leave wrong habits, and leave wrong people. If you can keep away from bad food, bad habits, and bad people, because many times we are so indecisive, even though some company is rather vicious, wicked, somehow under some imagined obligation, we continue to be in the company of people whose ways are not right. And without our knowledge, we get those wrong ways. So, coming back, do not use harsh words. We understand your concern about something going wrong. See whether you can set it right by speaking right words. That person is eating some stale food. If possible, carry some fresh and healthy food to him and with a smile, you know, I brought this for you. Please eat this. I request you to eat this. If he understands that you watched or you took note of the stale or some unhealthy food he was eating, but you were so gentle and kind, you did not make one mention of the wrong that he was doing. You provided to him the other option of right food. So there are actually some 10 verses in this portion all about the importance of avoiding harsh speech. In houses, in various organizations, and of course on the international level too, a lot of things go wrong because there would be somebody who speaks harshly and hurts the sentiments and so on. So this actually is combined in another shloka which also talks about how we must not be harsh in our speech. But I have highlighted the previous verse because the earlier slide had 4.7, previous to it is 4.6. 4.6 says, Na kroshi syat navamani parasya. One should not yell akrosha, yell or scream. Change your ways. And do not do avamana, insulting somebody. Mitra drohi, do not be drohi. Drohi is betraying. Somebody has much faith in you, but your behavior was opposite to what was expected. And do not nicha upasevi, do not be nichopasevi. Na kroshi sya navamani parasya mitra drohi nota nichopasevi. Now the portion in the slide. न चाभिमानी न च हीनवृत्तः रूक्षां वाचं रुषतीं वर्जयीत. So, the second part of this portion is what was said before too. Ruksham vacham varjayita. Harsh and bitter, burning. Rushatim, you know the word rosha, kopa, krodha, and rosha. These are the words that imply anger. Stephen Covey uses an adjective, destructive anger. Sometimes anger is constructive to bring about certain discipline, to bring people to the right track. You may, with all control within yourself, express some anger. And you know where to stop, how much anger, when exactly, and for what reason, etc., are taken into account. You are taken care of them. That's constructive anger. We do need constructive anger. But all of us have sometimes destructive anger. That is to be given up. Then the first part, nacha abhimani, nacha hina vrittaha. Everyone has some bad aspect of conduct, even if it is backbiting, even if it is spilling the beans, meaning letting the whole town know or a few others know what was supposed to be a secret. Somebody had confided in you and told you, don't say this to anybody. Very next day you say to people. Then your character is loose because you cannot keep confidential matter with yourself. So drinking or smoking, some other thing, whatever it is all hina vritta. Do not be hina vritta. So friends, this portion of Vidura Neeti is solid advice to you and me to ensure that our daily life is morally sound. Some of us may say, all this is okay for youngsters. I am already 74-year-old. All I want is moksha now. I don't want any of this moralizing, etc. Well, not because you are 74 or 68. Question is, have you actually arrived at right living? Are you morally sound? If you are morally sound, you don't have to say I'm 74 or 68 or 83. Even if you are 32-year-old, you can go into only Upanishadic study or Ramana Maharshi's self-inquiry or pure meditation. But be honest, irrespective of her age, perhaps you have some hina vritta, either way, some bad conduct. Your own heart knows it. So let go of that loose character, be sound. Therefore, many of us who are otherwise into Vedanta study have to periodically study such portions like Vidura Neeti, and they act as a mirror to our life. We would know whether there is something very objectionable in our day-to-day life. Therefore, Kathopanishad, an Upanishad itself, emphasizes right conduct. There is a shloka or a mantra, as we call it, because it's a portion of Veda. Navirato duscharitat, nashanto na samahitaha, nashanta manaso vapi, prajnani nainam apnuyat. Just the first expression would do here. Na avirataha duscharitat. Na avirataha, double negative. So if you remove, if you are still into some bad ways, then prajnanena na apnuyat. You will not come upon enlightenment. Don't say, I want moksha, I don't want any of these do's and don'ts. You may want moksha, we respect that wish. But if your day-to-day living has some moral lapses, the door to moksha will not open to you. Therefore, for that goal of that, the highest desire of yours of moksha, you need to uh, do something on the plane of how you speak, how you treat others, how you treat yourself, and so on. It's in with this view that, in fact, in less than 6 weeks or about 7 weeks, let's say, we're going to have a one-day retreat in the beautiful School of Ancient Wisdom in Bangalore, Devanahalli, on Vidura Neeti. Generally, we hold programs on Upanishads, Gita, and all that. But Vidura Neeti, in its 8 chapters, has so much of valuable advice to us. I called it in the synopsis of this webinar also mid-course correction. Our boat has already gone sailing. on the river of so-called spiritual sadhana, and we are heading towards so-called moksha. But halfway, mid-course we discover, oh, my boat may sink. There is a hole here. I thought it's a holy boat, but it is holy in a different way. It has a hole, and the boat may sink. Therefore, you slow down and you try to plug that hole. No water should come inside the boat. Having plugged the holes that were discovered in the boat, the traveler then goes further towards the most admirable destination of moksha. Therefore, some of you are interested, please try to join September 10 and 11, just an overnight program in the School of Ancient Wisdom. September 10 morning starts, September 11 evening it concludes. 30 hours program on Vidura Neeti. All right, please see how the scriptures do not leave anything untouched. They don't take anything for granted. They know that 99 out of 100 people talking Vedanta have some loose ends to be tied up. Therefore, don't allow your character to remain loose. Now we come to a perhaps much awaited uh, aspect of the teachings. Many of you would have read in the synopsis where I have said Vidura reveals an insight into how we may let go of our bad habits, how we may actually change. A lot of people say, I'm trying to change, but I cannot. How can I change? How can I be a different person from this day onwards? There is a shloka, I have put here a part of it, how we can leave vice and go towards virtue, an insight. And verse number is 14. The whole verse reads like this. Yato yato nivartate tatas-tato vimuchyate nivartanadhi sarvatah navetti dukkham anvapi. One word is what Vidura uses. Nivratti, nivartana or nivartate is the verbal form. Nivartana is the one word. Why do I call it a precious insight? Yes, in the context where it has appeared, it's not the goody goody advice of, you want to be free of bad habits. All you have to do is stop that bad habit. That doesn't make much sense to a lot of people. That's what I'm trying to do, but I'm unable to do it. How do I stop? So we need to go a little deeper into this word Nivartana. I have heard, long back I read actually a little book on Sri Aurobindo. Right away when he was in jail, Alipore jail I guess, in Kolkata, later he moved to Pondicherry to avoid being arrested by British. He went to the French colony of Pondicherry. There he became a supreme yogi. But right in the Alipore jail of Kolkata, he was already advanced in yogic practices. And I read in that little book many years ago that he was doing yoga, pranayama, some meditation. Somewhere he developed a skill. That's what the shloka talks about. He developed a skill, and you and I also, I think, come very near there, but we miss it. The skill is nothing else than when a thought arises, in the process of the thought arising, there is a certain point up to which you actually have a certain control on the thought. Even as it is rising, and let's say on a scale of 10, it has come up to level 3 or level 4. You actually have the ability to not pursue it, rather Rather, like putting a pencil on the side. I have a pencil in my hand. Rather than continuing to hold it, I just drop it on the side. Like that, you will be able to. You can actually develop that skill. Like you learn many other skills. Try again and again. Do nivartana. As a thought arises, as soon as you recognize that it is not a healthy thought, such thoughts only, 1,000 times have made me pay heavily for my wrong behavior in my public life or in my private life, here, there, wherever. So that negativity has risen again. Before it gathers strength, just drop it. Practice it. Just as you go to the kitchen, you are a diabetic, and you feel like taking a spoonful of sugar and putting into the mouth. You even took the sugar box in your hand. You opened it also. Stop. Just put the lid and put it back and walk away. So Vidura talks about yato nivartate. It's you and your mind. It's you and your thoughts. Nobody is asking you to control somebody else's thoughts. You don't even have to use the word control. It is gracefully and in a rather easy way, you should just put it aside. Right. To complete reference to Aurobindo, it is said that in the jail, he learned that skill of throwing a thought in the air. A thought rises in him, and rather than identifying with it, allowing it to get stronger, he would, as though in a manner of saying, throw it in the air. Like you and I do physically sometimes. As we are going, we suddenly find maybe an insect coming near us. We gently push it aside. A mosquito, a fly, or as we are walking below a tree, something comes falling. We just put our head, face a little this side, and we just push it to the side, and with a smile move on. Can we do that with thought? Can we do that with the desire? Can we do that with an urge to say something? And as soon as we realize, no, this is not a healthy word, this is not a good word for me to say, I should not let others speak, I'll keep quiet. Can you just develop that skill? It's never too late. Yato nivartate. Therefore, nivritti marga, letting go. So it's more than just repeating the same words. How do I let go of bad habits? Oh, the way to let go of bad habits, is to let go of bad habits. That would be repeating the same words. No, it's something more. It has a certain insight into developing a greater awareness, greater watchfulness, and strengthening our willingness. Many times we are not willing to do the right thing. We must strengthen our willingness, our preparedness. A part of our mind says, do all this from August, I said already. In July, there are not many, just another 7 days left. Do it from August 1st. We have to say to ourselves, why? What can be done in August can be done now itself. It better be done now itself. Therefore, no excuse. So, in a graceful way, without hurting ourselves, without suffering in any way, we can let go of some negative urges. The shloka goes further to say, Nivartanat hi sarvata. As you learn to, like Aurobindo was able to, in a manner of saying, fling the thoughts, throw. You and I Either could try to throw that, or drop it, or withdraw from it. Vidura uses the word withdraw. Do not feed it anymore. Do not consciously give strength to that thought. Practice it. Rather than reading some big books here and there for 5 minutes, for 10 minutes, try to watch thoughts, and the only um, plan you have is let thought arise. I have no fight with them. I have no fight with my own mind. But as thoughts arise, what I'm going to do now is I won't pursue any thought. I won't ride on a horse that comes by. The horse comes, the horse goes. The donkey comes, the donkey goes. Like that, let thoughts come, let them go. I will let them go. In this way, if you practice, you will go very far in spirituality. Then memorizing some conceptual statements, then learning shlokas or mantras, all of which can be helpful to an extent. But at the heart of spiritual growth is the ability in you and me to let go of thoughts and just remain free of thought. Nivartanat, he says, Naveti dukkham anvapi. Even sorrow will no more be in your life because it is thoughts which bring sorrow, thoughts which are carriers of sorrow. Thoughts are the carriers of regret, remorse, low self esteem, and a whole lot of bad emotions are all carried by thoughts. Therefore, the ability to drop a thought when it is weak, it's easy, it can be done. Develop that skill. Then, na dukkham anuapi, even a little sorrow will not be in your life. You are a happy person. This is a wonderful, insightful statement in this 14th sloka of chapter 4 of Vidura Neeti. I guess it can do a big difference to us. Thus, in the last slide now, in this short webinar, I will share one more point. Vidura says to Dhritarashtra how good company, company of pious people, company of good natured in and out, not just showing goodness. Their whole life is marked by certain goodness. Uttaman eva seveta. As far as possible, be in the company of very good people. That is more wealth to you than mere money or other physical wealth. Uttaman eva seveta. Suppose sometimes you don't get such good people around you. Nobody, so difficult to get them. Prapta kale. Prapta kale tu madhyaman on occasions. Prapta kala means on occasions. On occasions, there is no truly virtuous person. Everybody has some problems. All right, madhyama. If they have some good qualities, go ahead. And Vidura is uncompromising. In the second part of the shloka, he says, Adamans na seveta. Can we on occasions be in the company for 1 or 2 days with wicked people? Adhama, lowest people. In fact, there are some shlokas describing who is Adhama, who is Uttama, who is Madhyama, and so on in this very portion. Adhaman kadapi na seve. No. If on a particular day you are likely to meet some wicked people who have all dirty thoughts, you just to use some excuse just to go away somewhere, or take 1 day leave and do not somehow join them. If this is what advice, yaha ichet bhutimatmana. Whoever on the earth wants true spiritual growth should be uncompromising with this value. I will try my best to be in the company of people of good character, On occasions I may join middle kind, but never. People who are hypocrites, people who are wicked, people who have ulterior motives, people who take pleasure in hurting others, who are sadistic, who may be talented, who may be bright, who may be knowledgeable, but their character is such that they are interested in projecting themselves. They just show off and they are snobbish. They throw their weight around. So, with all due respect to their knowledge and their skills and talents, seeing this negative side of theirs, how egoistic they are, Adhaman na seveta. Do not be in their company. So good company, therefore, is emphasized here. So these were some vignettes, some glimpses of Vidura Neeti in this particular webinar. We will again get back to Vidura Neeti once in 3 or 4 months for the 592 verses in the 8 chapters, which is a part again of Udyoga Parva in Mahabharata, are a great treat to every one of us in this spiritual journey of ours. Om, Om, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So here we are. Please comment, do ask a question.
Thank you, Swamiji. It was very good. Learned a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you,
for that
Swamiji.
encouraging comment. Yes,
Thank you,
Meera,
Swamiji.
thank you.
Swamiji, this is Meera.
Yeah.
Are you going to record the September class, Swamiji, on
Yeah,
Vidura
yeah.
Neeti?
That will record. There will be some maybe some 5 lectures. Yeah, 5 or 6.
Oh, good, Swamiji. Thank you very much. ಆಮೇಲೆ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಚಾನೆಲ್ ನಲ್ಲಿ ವಿದುರ ನೀತಿ ಅಂತ ಒಂದು ಕೈಂಡ್ ಆಫ್ ಲಿಟಲ್ ಸಬ್ ಡೊಮೈನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಈ ಲೆಕ್ಚರ್ಸ್ ನೆಲ್ಲ ಅದು ಹಾಕಿದ್ರೆ ಬಹಳ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿರುತ್ತೆ.
That's Vibaji makes what is called a playlist.
Playlist, so, yeah, that will be very nice, Swamiji. So beautiful lecture, Swamiji.
Vidura Neeti.
Tumba ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿದೆ. Very nice. Thank
good
you.
Suggestion. Good suggestion. I also enjoy whenever I take up this, and we realize that it's okay, moksha, but dharma has to be strengthened all along.
Yes, Swamiji. We only know this life to live, how to live it well. That is so important. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Swamiji, this is...
Yeah, Praveena. Yeah.
I have a question and a comment, Swamiji, but I have to tell you, I can't believe how well you say to mold our personality. You just nailed that on the coffin. Especially these seminars are so beneficial and it's just amazing. It just puts fire under us to really reflect on our own internal before we comment on anyone else, especially for children. Yeah. But, Swamiji, the question, and also I have to thank you so much
question. Now coming to question,
Yeah. So the question is, so Swamiji, then Dhritarashtra was all along with the good company. Vidura was right next to him. And with all the teachings. So this is where the self-effort comes, because even though he was in such a good company and he had all the resources.
Right.
Yeah, he didn't have any other challenges. So I just wanted you to see just the company.
Correct.
If you're not primed for it, how beneficial that is.
Yeah. Probably Dhritarashtra did not have good company all the time, because every now and then this Duryodhana, his very egoistic son, would come and throw tantrums at the father. You can imagine Duryodhana, Dushasana, 100 sons, So many of them and their spouses probably would come and again change his mind. So our Vidura or Sanjaya, some of those pious people were no doubt around him, but more than them, his own sons again and again would turn his decisions upside down. Quite possibly, after talking to Vidura, he would make up his mind. But Duryodhana would come and cry or laugh or bring some gifts. So that was his problem. So it's like they say, two hands are needed for a clap. On one hand, his attachment was too strong. Why blame Duryodhana alone? Against the backdrop of that great attachment. So suppose you and I find ourselves in in Dhritarashtra's situation. So we should work on both the fronts. That is, we should recognize that, oh, I am attached to these 2 or 3 people. It's true. So we must take steps to reduce our attachment to some 2 or 3 people, let's say, who are again and again influencing us in a negative way. And then secondly, we must try to change people also. That is, change yourself and change others to the extent possible. That's why I said both ways, both sides. Sometimes we do have the power to tell somebody, no, you can't do this. Or we can have the power to tell somebody, you have to do this. That is exerting pressure on those people. Then, in our own privacy, they have gone, they said whatever they had to say and they went. So our mind is, in a rage. Our mind gets wild. Then we should do some japa, some meditation. We should do some pranayama and then ask ourselves, well, I again am highly influenced by this lady or man or these people or those people. But what is the right thing? And so we have to do some homework and reorient ourselves. So tell them also and tell yourself also. That's the two-pronged approach you need to take up.
Thank you, Swamiji. So that's the self-effort, that little change in mindset.
Self-effort, yeah. Self-effort is very correct. Then
Yes,
we
thank you,
come to Jyoti. Oh, welcome.
Swamiji.
Yeah, mic is on. Okay, I'm hearing you.
Yes. On the fourth section, how can we change ourselves? Change the secret of letting go of bad ways. When a thought arises or a speech arises, try to analyze it. Quickly analyze it and drop it. But what happens is, whether it is a home environment or a work environment, when we analyze the thought and we know it may not bring the right result, or the other person may react differently, so we can drop the thought on that note. But that also sometimes gives us kind of a suppression, like, I should have said it. Why should I be so concerned about what the other person thinks or react?
Correct.
So what do we do with that? Like,
yeah, so we have to sort that out also. If we feel a bit guilty, if we feel, oh, why did I not say it, or why did I do that, and so on, then honest introspection again. Do you think I really would have done it? I really could have done it, really should have done it. And then in that introspection, if we feel that I should have done something, right? Then next question is, all right, I missed the opportunity today. I should have said that word and I did not. Do I have a chance tomorrow? And 9 out of 10 scenarios, we get one more chance. Tomorrow I am again meeting that person. And even if it is as simple as saying a thank you, which I missed today, I remained tight-lipped. I did not say thank you. Tomorrow when I meet him, I can even refer. You know what? Yesterday I forgot to thank you. I must thank you twice today to make up something like that. It always. Just yesterday, for example, what was that? Yeah, I contacted some Swamiji in Varanasi, whom I somehow did not communicate with for maybe 2 or 3 years. So first thing, as he picked up the phone, I said, Swamiji, I apologize to you. I did not contact you for a long time. That's it. So he was quite, I could feel that. He was quite happy with that apology first coming from me. He said, no, we must talk. I too wanted to call you. Let us see, and so on. So sometimes, even if you have not done something for 2 or 3 years, something which you had to do, in a graceful way, you can do it now and make amends or mend the fence and so on. So if your heart says that I had to do something but I did not, even if you had neglected someone for 10 years, but now your conscience says that was not right on my part. Most of the times it's never too late. Now you make some specific plans. I want to show my care, show my love, show my attention to that particular person. So that's what we call mid-course correction.
Right. Okay.
Already enough water came into the boat, but now when you discover, quickly throw the water out, plug the hole, get going with the journey.
But can I add something, Swamiji?
Thank you.
I want to add something here.
Yes, welcome Jyoti, and over to Janaki Ram now. Yeah.
No, in some programs, what I have attended, I'm
Yes,
sure
Janaki
some
Ramji.
participants also may be familiar. Suppose the person has passed on or died, even then they say you can write it. What you wanted to express can be written down, and that itself also serves the purpose.
Right, I agree with that. Yeah, that person to whom we had to say something, he is no more, he is gone away. Then we can write it down. We can visualize him being in front of us and say to him, we work on ourselves with some regret that, oh my God, I wish he was here, I could have said to him, he is no more. Yeah, I agree with that, writing down. In fact, quickly 1 minute, Harry Truman was the president of the United States, Harry Truman. About him it is said that when some thought of some political adversary would come to him, and in the example, that person was very nasty, and Harry Truman would get agitated. He would write the name of that person, on a piece of paper, then crush that piece of paper, put it into a trash can, and then go ahead. This is an articulation. So what you said also is an articulation. We must first articulate the right thing, and then it will express later on when we come face to face with somebody. Yeah. So both good and avoiding bad things and doing good things.
Swamiji, there's
so
a
much,
question on the
Swamiji.
box.
Thank you so much,
Okay.
Swami.
I'll take the chat box, but now Asha Sharma is here. I think she's saying something. Yes, Asha ji.
Namaskar, Swamiji. I don't know what words to thank you for this.
No, most welcome.
Seminar. It is, it's something we are thinking all the time and not doing it. But listening to you.
All of us have long lists of things we should have done.
Yes.
Let's take one at a time,
So, it's, I think we're really fortunate for this kind of, where we missed it.
So we were, in fact, in between we had thought of stopping these webinars. Then we found that people are appreciating webinars. It is a different thing than the usual Gita lecture or Upanishad lecture. So we are continuing. Thank you, Asha ji, for saying that. Let me quickly see some of the chat box. we have here Janaki Ramji has written something. Avoid talking like a donkey braying is a well-known saying. Oh, I see. I have not heard this. Avoid talking like a donkey braying. Yeah, very good. Correct. We need to improve our speaking. We should align with truth as well as be pleasing. Then he also says.
But Swamiji, the donkey could be braying to tell another donkey something, no?
No, this has to be taken.
I don't understand.
Actually,
I don't understand the donkey braying.
No, it should be taken with.
No, I understand.
Yeah. How we look at the donkey. Donkey has all the right to object to this quotation. Like they say, no, there's a Eurocentric view of India, etc. This is also a human-centric understanding of donkey here. That may not be truth. True, that's fine. We must apologize to donkeys for putting them in bad light here in such quotes. But these have been there. These long time quotes, Like Shakespeare would make a statement about women. So, but Shakespeare is a great author. His quotes even now are used. But he's not right for that gender bias. There are very good groups in Facebook when we choose rightly, like in WhatsApp as well. Okay, that's also a good comment. Thank you, Janaki Ramji. You are otherwise saying the company need not be offline. Sometimes such company can be online on Facebook and so on. Exactly. Okay, Dham Namaste and Hari Om are there. Then we have. Okay. Nice to see Vijay Bettadapura. Namaskara. Nice to see you, Vijay. We have long time no contact. Okay, Srinivas Murthy. How do we deal with provocations which trigger negative thoughts and emotions? How do we apply nivartana there? Yeah, so I would quote Stephen Covey, private victory leads to public victory. That's a famous statement by Stephen Covey, author of 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Private victory. So there are people who provoke us, right? And now, first attempt private victory. What is private victory? When you are by yourself, memories of those people, how they provoked you, irritated you, annoyed you, said things which should not have been said. Memories come. So handle them very well in your privacy. Handle these thoughts of anger or lust or greed or jealousy, backbiting, whatever. You and I have our own limitations. We must handle them in our private hours. And in our private hours, as I'm sipping some coffee in the balcony, I may get a thought about a certain person who spoke in a nasty manner. I should handle it so that as I sip some more coffee, I say, no, I don't want to hate him. At the most, I will say, thank you for whatever you said. You are entitled to your opinion. And I will examine myself, something, some tattvic and some balanced answer. You do a articulation, you do a rehearsal. Then comes the public victory. Next day you meet that person somewhere. And as before, she or he again makes a provocative statement. Thanks to the rehearsal where you registered a private victory during your coffee in the balcony, right? You will find yourself dealing with that much better. Whereas having coffee, suppose you are boiling over, I can't do anything to him, but I want somebody to teach him a lesson. I hope it happens quickly. Suppose you entertain such thoughts. Then next day when that person face to face provokes you, you will lose your balance. Therefore, have private hours, call it prayer time, meditation time, or coffee time, or tea time. In your private hours, do rehearsal, train yourself to give intelligent, decent, very appropriate response to such people. I guess that's about it, more or less. And if there is one person who wants to say with the mic on, I welcome that. Next time, maybe. Wonderful. So we'll meet again another time. Namaste. Good night to all in India and good day to all in the West.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Swamiji.
Swamiji. Hari Om.
I thank all of you.
Sujata. Okay.